नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 3, Talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. So Sati is continuously pestering Lord Shiva that she somehow wants to go for this yajna, which was where Lord Shiva was uninvited, and Lord Shiva is not very happy to give permission. And Lord Shiva is now describing what could be the consequences. So we just come to this minute. Text 18. Naitadrishanam svajana vyapekshaya gruhan pratiya tavatistamatmayam yabhyagatan vakratiya bichakshe aropita bubriyamarshanakshibihi. Translation.
One should not go to anyone's house, even on the consideration of his being a relative or a friend. When the man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. Purport. However low a person may be, he is never unkind to his children, wife, and nearest kin. Even a tiger is kind to its cubs, for within the animal kingdom, the cubs are treated very nicely. Since Sati was the daughter of Dakṣa, however cruel and contaminated he may be, naturally it was expected that he would receive her very nicely. But here it is indicated by the word anavasthita that such a person cannot be trusted. Tigers are very kind to their cubs, but it is also known that sometimes they eat them. Malicious persons should not be trusted because they are always unsteady. The Sati was advised not to go to her father's house because to accept such a father as a relative and to go to his house without being properly invited was not suitable. Hare Krishna.
Lord Shiva, he continued his warning. Lord Shiva says here that one should not go to anyone's house, even on the consideration of being close friend or relative. And what is the condition? Previously, he has already talked about the other conditions where one should not go. When the man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest Atiti with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. So this is the condition of Dakṣa going to be when he is going to see Sati or Lord Shiva in that sacrifice, where he felt that they are absolutely not qualified to take part in this particular sacrifice of Dakṣa. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that generally everybody is very kind to one's children, wife, and nearest ones. Even within the animal kingdom, Prabhupada writes here, tigers will treat their cubs, and the other animals very, very specially. If you have seen, especially, elephants, baby elephant, and they will do so much of masti and, halagulla, but they are very well taken care by all the elderly elephants like that. But sometimes the animals, they may eat another animal also. Sometimes they may eat their own child also, especially tiger or even cat also sometimes, or sometimes snakes. All the time they will eat couple of their own siblings, their own kids, like that. So Daksha here is called as Anavastitah. Anavastitah means he can stake anything and everything for his anger. Just like we can say Duryodhan. What a deadly brother Duryodhan was. He staked Jayadratha for kidnapping Draupadi. He staked all his 99 brothers for gaining the kingdom and ultimately destroyed entire Kulanashaka he became. Right? So such people cannot be trusted. There are many such examples in Mahabharata. One is Duryodhan, another is Drupad. Right? Drupad, he was so much filled with vengeance, and Drupad, when he was when he was chastised by Lord Krishna, he says that look at your children, what you have done. You have just converted your children into the weapons of Kuru destruction. That Shikhandi is going to destroy the Bhishma. And then Draupadi is going to destroy all the planets, all the warriors across the planets. Of course, Draupadi is a pure devotee herself. And then look at Drishtadyumna, he's born to destroy Drona. So you have just weaponized your children. And this one can see in the modern day history also. Sometimes people will just put around bomb across a small child and just send them somewhere. So this is the person which is called as Anavastitah, that such people cannot be trusted. So Lord Shiva is saying, my dear Sati, you are saying my father, but please do not trust that as soon as he sees you, he is going to have very different reactions and emotions. Text 19. Nice verse. We will recite this one. तथारिभिर्न व्यथते शिलीमुखैः
तथारिभिर्न व्यथते शिलीमुखैः
तार्दिताङ्गोरुदयेन दूयता स्वानां यथा वक्रधियां दुरुक्तिभिर्
स्वानां यथा वक्रधियां दुरुक्तिभिर्
दिवानिशं तप्यति मर्मताडितः
दिवानिशं तप्य इति मर्मताडितः.
Translation. Lord Shiva continued, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative, for such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. Purport. Sati might have concluded that she would take the risk of going to her father's house, and even if her father spoke unkindly against her, she would be tolerant, as a son sometimes tolerates the reproaches of his parents. But Lord Shiva reminded her that she would not be able to tolerate such unkind words, because natural psychology dictates that although one can suffer harm from an enemy and not mind so much because pain inflicted by an enemy is natural, when one is hurt by the strong words of a relative, one suffers the effects continually, day and night, and sometimes the injury becomes so intolerable that one commits suicide. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Now Lord Shiva says, if one is hurt by the arrows of the enemy, one is not as aggrieved as by the unkind words of a relative. For such a grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. So he's saying, my dear Sati. So what did he say? He's saying that by his neglect of you and maybe speaking few words, you will be completely destroyed. So please do not go to that sacrifice. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Sati might have concluded that it is worth taking the risk. Anyway, it's father's house. What is the problem? Even if he speaks unkindly towards me, I would be tolerant. Okay. But Lord Shiva reminds here that the natural psychology is that although one can suffer a harm from an enemy and not mind so much, because that's where he has gone with expectation of misery and pain that is there. But it is not the same when it is done by a relative or a friend. This is that grief will burn day and night. And this is very important. Therefore, one has to be extremely careful in one's speech. Now, I know and you also must be knowing countless examples of people, of very close relatives, of very close devotees who have become bitter enemies by the exchange of few unkind words here and there. It's all words, right? So shabda mein shakti hai, So therefore, what is the one line guidance here for all of us is yasminno udvijate lokonno udvijate chayah harsham bhayoddvegair mukto yah sachame priyah. That my speech should not create udvegata in somebody's mind. And neither I should be so fragile that if somebody speaks in some way, I become very udveg. Like in cricket, there is something called as sledging. Sledging means to defocus the batsman, the bowlers and fielders. They will keep talking such rubbish things, and then at times they will be cracking jokes so that his concentration will be lost and he will be quickly out. Okay. So we have two duties. First duty is speak in such a way that nobody becomes udveg because of us. And you cannot know, bro, what can I do? Mera Rashi, Sinha Rashi hai, when I open my mouth, I will roar only. No, that is your problem. That is not other person's problem. Then other person will become hunter to hunt you. Right? So one cannot simply say, no, bro, this is how I am made. If this is how you are made, then you are simply playing your kundali. Right? What is the use of training in that case if this is how I am made? So this is the taste of one's, the maturity. That how your near and dear ones means your friends, relatives, colleagues, this, that. What is the vibe they receive when you are in their presence? Correct? And it is not like about likable person or pestering around. No, one can be strict with oneself, one can be strict with others. At the same time, there has to be a grace and dignity in one's speech and language, right? And this is very important. Now, example after examples can be quoted on this, right? That how this speech, very critically struck somebody and entire Mahabharat war happened. Andhe ka putra, andha. And there are many matantar whether Draupadi said like this, and when she said, she was also perfectly justified saying in that, because they were troubled so much by the. But the point is, whatever speech is an extremely powerful energy. Sometimes I know many people, they say that Prabhuji, kya karu? Sab kuch acha karta hu main, this is especially the ladies side. Says, प्रभु जी सब कुछ मैं ही करती हूँ मेरी सास का, लेकिन मेरे से बोलना रहा नहीं जाता, और मेरी वो छोटी, उसको क्या कहते हैं, सिस्टर इन लॉ, देवर की
Devrani.
देवरानी, हाँ, जो छोटी देवरानी है ना, प्रभु जी कुछ नहीं करती, सिर्फ मीठी मीठी बातें करती रहती है, और शी इज द फेवरेट. And like that, so many things, like that children will say, me, I do so much for my parents, my brother doesn't do anything. But the point is, you cannot do physical thing and wipe it out verbally. It is very important. So here, Lord Shiva's message it is to Satī, right? That unkind words from a relative will produce such a grief which will burn oneself day and night. So second thing is, our most of the misery is going to come from our near and dear ones, right? So office, we are not going to office to seek any emotional support. The near and dear ones is where our most of the misery is going to come from. And therefore, one should be very careful in one's dealing with one's wife, one's husband, one's children. One simply cannot say, oh, I'm made like that. No, we are supposed to change now. Otherwise, people, till the time they have some artha from us, people will be submissive to us. As soon as they will become independent, they will just, people will be just out from our life and never to come back. People will alienate you, or rather we will alienate ourselves simply by our speech. And this is what Lord Shiva says is very beautifully. Divanisham tapyati marmataditaha. Look at the word. Divanisham ratran divas tapyati. Such speech will burn the person from within. Marmataditaha. Look at the Sanskrit is also so harsh. 19th verse, last line. Marmataditaha. Marmataditaha means, so One has to be very careful. One may be speaking to one's juniors, one may be speaking to one's counselees, one may be speaking to one very close friend, one may be speaking to one's children, wife, husband, and we cannot simply think ये तो मेरा आदमी है मैं कैसे भी उसको बात कर सकता हूँ. No, there is a example of a Subudhi who wanted to train one Muslim boy, and he used to beat him. Of course, beating was very, very normal 500 years ago. It was normal 20 years ago also. We have, taken so many slaps from our parents. But, but he was, and because of that good beating, that, very simple boy, he became a Badshah, he became a king. And once Begum was asking, she said that, what are these your marks on your back? And then he said, no, my fatherly person, Subudhi Rai, used to beat me to give me good sanskar. And she became very angry and she said, no, you have to kill him. And then the later story continues in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So somebody may be under us now, somebody may be junior to us now, somebody may be subordinate to now, somebody may be in a disadvantaged position now, somebody may be reporting to us now, right? But one has to be very careful in one's speech. Marmatadita, otherwise. And this is when we to another, when me to somebody. And from somebody, we should always be very careful that it is my duty not to get offended by people. Not that, I was very jolly Prabhuji, but that fellow came and he just said something, mera moody utar gaya, and whole day. Write it down. There are, Maya can arrange 365 fools in a year to destroy our every day. This is how, sometimes we are just going, some rickshaw wala may speak something, this may happen, that may happen. So it is our responsibility to maintain our attitude and mood and not to become vyathayantete. And it is our responsibility that by our speech, somebody else is also not hurt. Right? So this is very important from Lord Shiva. He is warning that this is going to happen, my dear Sati. Please do not go. Text 20. त्यक्त्वं त्वमुत्कृष्टगते प्रजापते प्रियात्मजानम् असि सुभ्रुमे मता तथापि मानं न पितु प्रपश्यसे मदाश्रयात् कः परितप्यते यतः. Translation.
My dear white complexioned wife, it is clear that of the many daughters of Daksha, you are the pet, yet you will not be honored at his house because of your being my wife. Rather, you will be sorry that you are connected with me. Purport. Lord Shiva put forward the argument that even if Sati proposed to go alone without her husband, still she would not be received well because she was his wife. There was every chance of a catastrophe, even if she wanted to go alone. Therefore, Lord Shiva indirectly requested her not to go to her father's house.
So now Lord Shiva says, my dear wife, O Sati, it is clear that amongst the many daughters of Daksha, you are the pet. What is the verse there? Priyatmamanaha. Priya, you are the pet. Atmamanaha. Amongst all Atmajanam, amongst the many daughters, you are the pet. But still, it is not worthy going there because you are connected with me. And Daksha will see your connection with me more harshly than his connection with you as father and the daughter. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that even if Sati says, okay, you don't come, Lord Shiva, there is some enmity, some अनबन चल रहा है अब दोनों में, you don't come, I will go alone. And there also Lord Shiva says, no, it is not worthy you going because there is every chance of catastrophe, even if you go alone. And this is how Lord Shiva indirectly requested her not to go to her father's house. Right? So Sati is indirectly asking permission and Lord Shiva is indirectly requesting her not to go. Text 21. पापच्यमानेन रुधातुरेन्द्रियः समृद्धिभिः पुरुषबुद्धि साक्षिणाम् अकल्पमेषाम् अधिरोढुमञ्जसा param padam dveshti yata sura harim. Translation?
Should I read, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Translation. One who is conducted by false ego and thus always distressed, both mentally and sensually, cannot tolerate the opulence of self-realized persons. Being unable to rise to the standard of self-realization, he envies such persons as much as demons envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The real reason for the enmity between Lord Shiva and Dakṣa is explained here. Dakṣa was envious of Lord Shiva because of Shiva's high position as an incarnation of a quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because Shiva was directly in contact with the Super Soul and was therefore honored and given a better sitting place than he. There were many other reasons also. Dakṣa, being materially puffed up, could not tolerate the high position of Lord Shiva, so his anger at Lord Shiva's not standing up in his presence was only the final manifestation of his envy. Lord Shiva is always in meditation and always perceives the Super Soul, as expressed here by the words Purusha Buddhi Sakshisanam. The position of one whose intelligence is always absorbed in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very great and cannot be imitated by anyone, especially an ordinary person. When Dakṣa entered the arena of Yajna, Lord Shiva was in meditation and might not have seen Dakṣa enter. But Dakṣa took the opportunity to curse him because Dakṣa had maintained an envious attitude towards Lord Shiva for a long time. Those who are actually self-realized see every individual body as a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature is residing in everyone's body.
Yeah, it's a long
When
break.
one,
We'll read in two sections.
yes, Prabhu.
One who is conducted by false ego and thus always disturbed, both mentally and sensually, cannot tolerate the opulence of self-realized person. Right. This is what we see, that Hiranyakashipu, unable to tolerate opulence of Prahlad Maharaj. Simple, small child, Hiranyakashipu, complete control over the universe. Everything he was controlling, still completely dissatisfied. Later, when we read 7th canto, it is explained that he was always intoxicated, eyes continuously rolling, and life full of anxiety. Although he had complete control over entire thing in the universe, except Lord Brahma, he was controlling everybody. And such a person, in spite of his great opulence, when he came across Prahlad was so peaceful, so satisfied. He was unable to tolerate the opulence of the self-realized person. So this is the precise, Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is the real reason of enmity between Lord Shiva and Dakṣa, that although Lord Shiva had nothing material, right? He's Aniketanaha, he has what kind of followers he has, and still he is Atma Ramaha and Purusha Buddhi Sakshinam. He is on a higher position as Gunavatar, correct? He's always in touch with the Super Soul, Purusha Sakshi Buddhina, and is honored and respected everywhere far more than Dakṣa. And this was the real cause of envy of Dakṣa towards Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva was in meditation, Purusha Buddhi Sakshinam. He was on the meditation on the Supreme Lord. And Dakṣa, he just saw that discrepancy, that he did not get up. He was not supposed to get up, but he did not get up, and immediately picked up that point and picked up the quarrel. He was so envious that long-lasting envy was just filled in the heart. And immediately he took the opportunity to curse Lord Shiva because of his envious attitude. So Purusha Buddhi Sakshina means that the advanced devotees will perceive the super soul in the heart of every living entity. And this is the position of Lord Shiva. He can perceive the super soul in his own heart, he is in direct communication with, because they are on the Gunavatara levels. And he can see in everybody's heart as the super soul. And this was a very higher position of which Dakṣa was always envious of. Yeah, please continue.
When one
When one
offers
offers respect to the body, it is not to the material body, but to the presence of the Supreme Lord. Thus, one who is always in meditation upon the Supreme Lord is always offering him obeisances. But since Dakṣa was not very elevated, he thought that obeisances were offered to the material body. And because Lord Shiva did not offer respect to his material body, Dakṣa became envious. Such persons, being unable to rise to the standard of self-realized souls like Lord Shiva, are always envious. The example is given here is very suitable. Asuras, demons, or atheists are always envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They simply want to kill him. Even in this age, we find some so-called scholars commenting on Bhagavad Gita who are envious of Krishna. When Krishna says, Man mana bhava madbhakta, Bhagavad Gita 18.65. Always think of me, become my devotee, and surrender unto me. The so-called scholars comment that it is not to Krishna that we have to surrender. That is envy. The asuras are atheists, the demons, without reason or cause, are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, instead of offering respect to self-realized persons, foolish men who cannot approach the highest standard of self-realization are always envious, although there is no reason. Hare Krishna.
Next, Prabhupada mentions that although one is offering respect, respect is offered to whom? Respect is not offered to the material body, but it is the presence of the Supreme Lord within that body. And because everybody, in every body, there is a Supreme Lord present, where Lord says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto, right? So amongst everybody's heart, I am present, service, and therefore every body becomes temple. And therefore, accidentally, when we touch somebody by feet, we'll immediately say, sorry, Shamasva, and immediately we'll touch, the Namaskaram we'll do. Why? Because every body is a temple of the Supreme Lord. The Lord, as Paramatma, is present along with Jivatma in every body, right? Now, when Dakṣa entered, Lord Shiva's condition was Purusha Buddhi Sakshina. Dakṣa, Lord Shiva, he saw not only just Dakṣa, for everybody, Lord Shiva saw the personality and the super soul within. And being in touch with the super soul, Lord Shiva always offered obeisances to the personality. And that's what actually one is doing, offering namaskaram to. But Dakṣa could not understand that. Dakṣa unnecessarily picked up the fight, just like Padam param padam dveshti yatha asura hari. Just like the asuras, they are always envious of Lord Hari for no apparent reason. They're simply envious. Like Hiranyaksha wanted to kill Vishnu. He said, I no reason, I just want to kill Vishnu. Vishnu and Vishnu people want to destroy them. And these are the asuras, not of the bygone ages. Even now also such asuras exist in terms of their scholarly interpretation. Srila Prabhupada writes, there is a so-called scholar who writes in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana abhava madbhakto, where Lord Krishna clearly writes in the first Purusha writes, Manmana, become my devotee. He says, no, it is not Krishna. It is something within Krishna, something unborn within Krishna and not to Krishna. And Prabhupada says, this shows the clear envy of such, just like the asuras are envious of Lord Hari. Similarly, such scholars who are writing so-called commentary on Bhagavad Gita are actually displaying their own envy towards the Supreme Lord. They are no less than asuras or atheistic. Similarly, and they are envious of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, instead of offering respect to the self-realized persons, foolish person cannot approach the highest standard and thus become envious without a reason. And for all this, my dear Satī, please do not go to this Dakṣa Yajna. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Yes.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Down Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Dandot Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.